So a good friend of mine reached out to me, said that he had a Vise that needed a little TLC. He didn't know what it is. It's just a Vise that he was given by his father-in-law 25 plus years ago, and he wanted to keep it, hold on to it, and pass it down through the generations of his family. So I'm headed over there now, pick up the Vise, talk to him and see what he wants done. I'm gonna get it, see what I can do. The plan is to leave as much as we can of the original paint. He's into rat rods and stuff, so I'm gonna just kind of rustic rat rod it out, if you will. But you know, it's subject to change. We'll see what happens, and we may get into it and see that there's not a lot of original paint left, and we may just do a complete restoration. We'll see. Well, stay tuned and I'll show you what I pick up.
Yes, it's another Wilton Vise restoration. This is the Vise that his father-in-law gave him over 25 years ago. He says it lives outside. It is covered, but it's still susceptible to humidity changes and things of that nature. There's some markings on it, some numbers. I can't quite read all of them, but when we get it cleaned up, we'll take a closer look at the numbers, and then hopefully y'all can educate me in the comments as to what this is. But as far as I'm understanding, it is just a machinist Vise. I know I can get the year once I get it tore apart. All right, let's get this pulled apart, get it cleaned up tonight. It's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. This thing's a pig. All right, let's get this out of here. Let's see what the date on the back of it says. Man, that's heavy. All right, the date on here, the warranty date is January of 1981. So that means it was made in 76. So it's just over 46 years old. Very cool. Doing some cold blue with this Formula 4440. I cleaned everything with acetone. Applying the cold blue, gonna let it set for a little while. It's very important that you clean it with acetone. Clean it again, and when you think it's clean, clean it again. Then rinse it off with water, and then treat it with oil. A good friend of mine is a gunsmith, and he told me that in his drawer at any given moment, he's got 4 or 5 different formulas of cold blue, because different steels, different compositions, metallurgy, if you will, they will take differently. You might have one that has more zinc in it, or more iron, or something of that nature. It may not blue as well as something else. These jaws, these removable jaws, may not blue as well as these screws. So it's something you have to play around with, test out and try. But when it works, it turns out so good. I found out the hard way that if you don't rinse it off with water, a day or so later, it will corrode. Rinsing it with the water helps neutralize the effects of the cold blue, helps stop it. I really should have been doing this outside to hit this with an air compressor to make sure all the water is off of it. Fortunately, it's dark outside. Get that dried off as best I can. On these jaws, I like using the sponge because it gets down in all the little crevices, serrations. Other pieces I would use steel wool, or can't think of it. hate when that happens. It's right there on the tip of your tongue. You can't think of what it is. Scotch-Brite pad. Very fine Scotch-Brite pad. But this little sponge brush seems to work really well for applying this. So I've noticed on jaws on multiple vices, I have to kind of let it set and pull up for a little while before it starts to take. Other pieces, like you saw earlier with the screw, all you gotta do is just touch it. See if it's not taking it right away. I gotta let it set on there. You'll be good to go. Alright, I'm going to rinse that off, dunk it in oil, and I think I'm going to call it a night. I've been at it for about 3 hours, so.
Coming back to you with a couple of updates. This guy here messed up the settings on the video recorder and was only filming for about 4 minutes at a time, so there's a lot of footage that just never got shot, and I can't go back and put the rust back on the vise and show you how I was taking it off and preserving the paint. Basically it was just Scotch-Brite pads and fine steel wool with WD-40 and taking my sweet time with it. But that's okay, because we realize there's not enough factory paint left on the vise for it to look decent, and we're going to go ahead and paint it. There's also some other footage of disassembling the tail cap. The pinholes didn't line up. I had a lot of problems getting that off. One of the holes isn't drilled all the way through, but I'll show you that whenever I put it back together. But yeah, get back to it here shortly.
Okay, here's the vise after removing all the rust, and as you can see, there's little to almost no original paint on it still. So we've decided to go ahead and repaint it. We're just going to go ahead and do a more standard restoration. I did lose video footage of how I removed most of the green spilled paint on the back of the vise, but that's okay. It's not needed now. So let me get everything set up and I'll be right back. Well, halfway through wire welding the vise, my buddy called and he changed his mind. He doesn't want to paint it. It's all right, because we're going to go a different route. He wants me to leave it outside and let it force patina, but I'm going to do a couple of other things before we go that route. I'm going to try to do a boiled linseed oil treatment on it, see how that turns out. And if he doesn't like that, at then that point, I will do some kind of forced patina. But yeah, things have changed again. But that's cool, because he's a friend, and I'll do whatever he wants. Well, there it is. That's the Wilton. It has been completely disassembled, cleaned, blued, refinished in a hammered blue finish. We've gone from wanting to do one thing to another and finally came up with something that he absolutely loves. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and get this vise put back together, get this video finished up, because I know it's got to be getting long. Having said that, if you've hung out with me this long, I appreciate it. You know what to do. Just go ahead and do that YouTube thing and hit those little bells and whatnots, and comment down below and let me know what you think about the video. Let me know what you think I could do better. So let's get started. I remember there was a couple of things I told you I was going to show you. I had trouble disassembling the tail cap because this pinhole was never drilled all the way through. Off camera, I'll go ahead and fix that so that won't be an issue down the road. Unfortunately, I did lose the video footage of some of that. But other than that, it came apart really good, and I'm sure it's going to go back together smoothly. So let's get started. Said I know this video has run long. I thought about editing it, making it shorter, but half the reason I've done the video is to document this for my buddy so he can look back at it. So I'm not going to do a real big ordeal about putting it together. I'll just film it as I go, fast forward through it. I've already cleaned it off. I had soaked this in oil overnight, and I soaked it, but I wiped it down with oil overnight because of the bluing process, and also to help it not flash rust on me. I've wiped that oil off, and I have applied boiled linseed oil to it to help prevent the rust from occurring and to help protect the metal. All he's going to have to do is just periodically continue to put boiled linseed oil on it. You know, wipe it down after you're done with it. Get a paintbrush, cheap paintbrush, and brush it off, or not. Just use it and let it patina again. Let it do what it's going to do. Like I said, this vise stays outside, so who knows what's going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years. Hopefully it'll look cool. Hopefully it'll be taken care of and it won't be as bad as it was. But we will see. We'll get this thing together. I appreciate y'all sticking around. Off camera, I went ahead and applied some paste wax to the bearing surfaces on the base and the lower portion of this vise to help with the smoothness of operation. And I will continue to grease as I go. So smooth. I read where some guys were using a mixture of grease and oil, and I've tried it. I have come up with a concoction. It's like 3 parts oil to 1 part grease, and it's been working really well. So I'm gonna put some of that on the threads of these screws, help prevent them from rusting back up in the future. Go ahead and get these started. The vise was extremely dry when I pulled it apart. I don't remember if y'all remember seeing that. It's got a coat of the boiled linseed oil on it. I don't think that it is going to matter if I do much to this inside part of it, but the threads and bearing surfaces, I'm going to make sure that I put an oil or a grease on. If I can get this cap on gently. Nice. Earlier in the video, I showed that I was refinishing, taking the pitting out of these screws with a file. And a lot of y'all were probably thinking, man, he sure is doing that the hard way. And you're right, that was the hard way. I was just doing it to see if it could be, if I had the skills to do it. If you remember on the video, I only did 2 of the screws that way. The 3rd screw, I actually chucked up in a drill and hit with sandpaper, starting with coarse and making my way to finer and finer and finer. Can you tell which is the difference? I sure can't. I've got some paste wax on this slide as well. Well, that is it. It is back together. I'm going to wipe it down again with some boiled linseed oil, a couple of light coats, and I will give it to him. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you would, like I said, comment down below. Let me know what I can do better. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Until next time. Dog, quit jumping on my nuts. What are you doing?